This is First Alert Weather Now.
And good evening, folks, to the very first edition of KCRG TV9's First Alert Weather Now, where we'll be joining you every night, every weeknight that is, here at 6:30, in order to give you sort of an in-depth look at our First Alert forecast and beyond. I'm meteorologist Corey Thompson.
And I'm meteorologist Hannah Messier.
And we will be giving you that look over the next, let's say, 10 to 15 minutes this evening, the very latest that we can bring you with all sorts of information.
That's right. We'll be talking about things we normally can't talk about in our regular shows because there's not enough time, more such as in-depth discussions about tropical storms, also how eastern Iowans are impacted upon the weather every day.
Yeah, and we're going to be taking a look back at some Iowa weather history too and how it compares to what we've been experiencing so far this year, this time of year. But first, let's get you what you need to know if you're headed out this evening. That does include some very quiet and comfortable weather. The weather stays decent for now as we keep our area of high pressure nearby that has been giving us these very calm conditions over the last couple of days. But the difference between the weekend and now is the summer-like conditions. Temperatures already warmed up a little bit over the last couple of days, and that warming trend continues as we head toward the middle of the week. Then we look toward the tropics, which is not something we often say here for eastern Iowa, but Tropical Storm Francine, which will soon become Hurricane Francine before it impacts the Gulf Coast in the next couple of days, will be potentially affecting our weather here in the Midwest as we look toward the end of the week. Now, temperatures between now and then will be on the rise, as we said, by about Wednesday and Thursday. That's when upper 80s especially will be possible. Low 80s look likely this weekend, and that's a little bit of that impact of that tropical system. But in the meantime, we're keeping things warm and not expecting a drastic change anytime soon. Your evening planner, if you're headed out in the next couple of hours, takes us in the 60s later this evening, 50s overnight around the start of Tuesday. So a little bit warmer than it has been the past couple of days as well. That's been that trend. We're going to keep that trend going over the next couple of days.
Though it was kind of nice Sunday morning to get to kind of leave my apartment, and it was actually kind of chilly. I actually wish I had my light jacket with me.
Oh yeah, this was the first weekend I wore a hooded sweatshirt on Saturday in particular when I was out and about. So there definitely was a little bit of a wardrobe change over the weekend.
However, we had to switch back to summer weather, unfortunately, for this weekend. That trend's going to continue.
Yeah, and those warm temperatures could affect you if you have some outdoor plans this week. Meteorologist Joe Winters has your forecast for fun with the latest.
As we move through the week, it looks like the weather is really going to cooperate. That's good news for your forecast for fun. Lots of things going on. Tomorrow morning may involve a bike ride. 7 o'clock in the morning, 54 degrees out on the Cedar Valley Nature Trail, 63 at 9, and by 11 o'clock, 73 degrees. Notice the winds do start to pick up from the south. You may want to adjust your route with a stronger wind by the afternoon at 10 to 20 coming up from the south. Now, Friday Night Lights, of course, coming our way. Our game of the week this week, it is City High taking on Iowa City West. Kickoff temperature 76 degrees, by the fourth quarter about 72. It does look quiet, but as we move through the week there'll be more clouds, so expect a cloudier sky than the past couple of games we had. Of course, coverage begins on KCRG 9.2. That starts at 7:30. Marion in the morning on Saturday, 8 to 11 o'clock. They've got their farmers market about 66 degrees. A mostly cloudy sky expected, but it should be dry, which is some great news as well. Get out and find some great harvest goods. And we can fall into Marion. It is the parade. Now, the parade itself about 80 degrees by the afternoon. It steps off at 10 o'clock. It's going to run from 15th Street to 6th Avenue. Lots of candy for the kids. More importantly, the First Alert Storm team will be there in the parade and ready to say hi to you. We've got some bouncy balls, some seeds, maybe a TB9 Frisbee. Again, the Fall into Marion parade from 15th Street to 6th Avenue. That happens on Saturday. Also, of course, on Saturday, it is game day. Iowa takes on Troy at Kinnick Stadium. 71 degrees, the tailgate, so a bit warmer than we saw. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff, about 79 degrees at the stadium. By the end of the game, down to 78. Again, more clouds than last week, but it does like it should be dry for the game at this point. And finally, it's opening weekend at Mumfest out at Bloomsbury Farm. 81 degrees on Friday, and as the fest continues as we head through Saturday and Sunday, high should be near 80 degrees. Again, it looks dry with mostly cloudy skies. Honestly, it looks like things are going to stay pretty nice for any activities you may have across the area as we head through the week. That's tonight's forecast for fun.
Now, your First Alert forecast with meteorologist Hannah Messier.
Well, we've been enjoying sunny skies here in Iowa. It's a different story down in the Gulf where Tropical Storm Francine is spinning just off the coast of Mexico. It is actually pretty well organized. You can see that by how organized the clouds are, spinning around what appears to be almost a closed low down there. Now a tropical storm is expected to strengthen into a hurricane by Tuesday afternoon, becoming a Category 2 hurricane before making landfall in Louisiana. Then as it moves inland, it's forecasted to weaken, becoming just a tropical storm by Wednesday afternoon. Thursday afternoon weakening into a tropical depression as it continues to move north into the continental United States. This is the view this evening on our Decorah City Cam. Nice and quiet. We have temperatures in our area in the 70s, 74 degrees in Cedar Rapids, 76 in Iowa City, and 73 in Decorah, with dew points in the 50s. Pretty comfortable. Your first alert has all green boxes highlighted on it. We're not expecting any impacts tonight, mainly because the systems are not really close to our area. The Midwest pretty quiet. You will notice though that the winds were a little bit higher today. That's because we have the pressure changes in general across the state that we are looking at. Overnight lows dropping into the 40s and 50s, 49 degrees in Washington, 55 in Fayette, and 54 in Dubuque, with that clear sky and winds out of the south 5 to 15. Overnight tonight, pretty quiet conditions, only a couple of clouds, waking up to a mix of sun and clouds on Tuesday morning, but more sun than clouds is expected. As we head into Tuesday afternoon, still a lot of sunshine with only a couple of clouds coming in the afternoon and evening. In our zonecast, highs tomorrow a little bit warmer than they were today in the low to mid 80s. 85 degrees in Dubuque, 82 in Marquette. In our northwest zone, looking at the low to mid 80s, headed to our central zone, 84 in Vinton, 84 in Cedar Rapids. That is above normal for this time of year. Normal high usually in the upper 70s in September. Now in our south zone, looking at the mid 80s, 84 degrees in North English. Now we're going to stay pretty dry as we head through the rest of the week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, dry, but notice on Friday some cloud cover builds in. That's actually remnants of Tropical Storm Francine entering the Hawkeye State, so a bit cloudier at the end of the week. In our long-term temperature outlook, September 16th through September 22nd, warmer than normal conditions in the forecast for our area. That means the warmth we're seeing this week is likely going to continue for at least another week and a half. So we have temperatures staying in the 80s Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, upper 80s on Thursday, though we'll cool back into the low 80s on Friday, just in time for Friday night lights and high school football. Still a little bit on the warm side, but low 80s is nothing compared to what we're going to have on Thursday.
Yeah, that's for sure. The warmth will be unusual, but I feel like we've had some warm Septembers lately. We have certainly felt those warm temperatures early in the month, at least.
Yeah, we have. Some warmer early falls, at least, has been the trend over the last couple of years. We'll enjoy the 80s while they last, though, because we know in a couple months that we'll probably be missing them a little bit.
Yeah, and it's not often that we're talking about tropical systems coming up into our neck of the woods. It's pretty rare, in fact, that even leftovers of those systems make it to eastern Iowa. Most recent, I think, was Tropical Storm Cristobal a couple of years ago. Gave us some pretty good rains as it moved through, but our forecast right now doesn't have that on it.
Yeah, right now it doesn't look like Francine is going to cause some of those rain impacts, just those clouds we're seeing on Friday, but we could kind of use some of the rain. It's pretty dry out there.
It has, but at this time of year, it's kind of a balancing act, isn't it, in some cases? I mean, we've got our lawns turning a little brown, for sure, but farmers are wanting to get into the fields pretty soon. We're not quite to harvest time yet, so we could use a little rain now, perhaps, but we're getting to that period where they want dry weather, in fact.
Right, so farmers when they harvest do need some of that drier weather, so as we kind of get closer to late September, early October, a forecast like this is probably just what they want.
Yeah, the temperature's warm for sure. Now this is in contrast. I like to live in the past a little bit. I always am looking to what happened in the past, and so we do our weather rewind here on Mondays. This date in history, we were talking about temperature setting records. Now it was actually tomorrow morning in history, 1976. A very cold air mass moved into the state. In fact, sent temperatures down near freezing or below in some cases. We're talking 29 degrees in Elkader, which is extremely cold, 32 in Independence, 33 in Anamosa. Now, the air was just so dry that it was able to cool off so efficiently and set those records. But by the afternoon in these places, temperatures were in the upper 70s to even low 80s. So things kind of go both directions there, where that dry air really cools off quickly like we saw this weekend. It can also warm up pretty steadily too, as we saw during the afternoon today. Now, the last time that we saw temperatures like this, it's very rare across eastern Iowa, was actually quite a while ago. And only 6 times in history in Cedar Rapids has the low been in the 30s or lower during the first part of September. We're talking the first 10 days. Today's only the 9th, and that day in history was the 10th. It's super rare for that to happen early in the month. Later in the month, yeah, it's a little bit more on the table, but in this portion of the calendar, very rare. The last time was 1986, so we do have to look back decades for anything quite that cold. We were close this weekend. Sunday morning's low was 41 in Cedar Rapids, so we were very, very close to that, but fortunately stayed just outside of it. In fact, our typical range in this time of year is in the 40s and 50s, so most of our September days are spent there. Some days a little bit warmer on the high end, 60s, or even about one day every year that is above 70 degrees for a low. Same story on the low end. A couple of 30s are possible, but again, more toward the end of the month. It's not very common this portion of the calendar. So far, we've seen more 40s than 50s so far this month, but we are going to add some more warmer temperatures as we look ahead. In fact, the next several days, as you just saw from Hannah's forecast, more 50s and then 60s being added to those counts. So we will have that slightly warmer tint to our temperatures as we look ahead. Yeah, 32 degrees. That's too early for that. And we were just talking about agriculture impacts there too. Yeah, we're getting toward harvest, but it's still early enough where that can do some damage to some of those agricultural crops, whether we're talking corn or even some of those apple trees. I know the springtime freeze is the bigger deal there, but you still don't want it this time of year.
The other thing is that vineyards in the area, grapes can definitely still freeze. And I know some of them are on the vines out there, so it's important to kind of keep that in mind. I know we don't control the weather, but like think about how the weather at this time of year really does impact the agriculture in our area.
Yeah, and it's important that you make those wine slushies after those grapes get made into wine, not before.
Yeah, exactly. Though the 60s at night, while it is a little bit warm for some people, it's kind of nice to open up the windows a little bit when it's in the 60s.
Yeah, I had the windows open a lot this weekend. Nice to give the air conditioner a break, nice to get that fresh air in there too. But we will have more above normal days than below over the next several days, it looks like.
It's going to be pretty warm. In our 9-day forecast, we've got very warm conditions expected. Look at that. Thursday, the highest temperature of the week, 88 degrees. That's more than 10 degrees above normal for this time of year. But first, let's take a look at what we're expecting for our Tuesday. For tomorrow, we're looking at a nice school day forecast for you. We have conditions expected to be nice and sunny for recesses, temperatures rising into the upper 70s and 80s in the afternoon. A few places reaching the mid 80s as well, a grade A day. Wednesday also looking pretty nice, but still pretty warm on Wednesday. Temperatures on Wednesday are expected to rise into the 80s in the afternoon. The peak heat of the day expected to be in the mid to late afternoon. Then on Thursday also looks to be a little bit muggy. In addition to the rising temperatures, we're going to see those rising dew points. Dew points on Thursday climbing into the upper 50s and even the low 60s. Now we're going to continue to see these dew points be a little bit high as we head into Friday night lights, but Friday night lights temperatures will be a little bit better. 76 degrees at 7 p.m. for Friday night football. I know a lot of high schoolers really excited at this time of year, everyone really excited at this time of year to get to enjoy Friday night lights. Light winds too coming out of the east-northeast, 5 to 15, just a couple of clouds again from Tropical Storm Francine entering the area this weekend. Also looks pretty nice in the low 80s.
Yeah, it doesn't look bad overall. That's the story there, is that there's a lot of time to get out and enjoy this weekend, even though it will be a bit on the warm side, not much to worry about.
Yeah, low 80s on the weekend is something that we'll probably miss a little bit come December.
Yes, indeed. And we will be back here with you again tomorrow night at 6:30, right where you're watching us right now, either KCRG.com, the KCRG TV9 YouTube channel, or our various other streaming platforms. Thank you for joining us on this first night. We'll have more updates on what will likely be Hurricane Francine at this point and your weather here in eastern Iowa coming up. Have a great night.